It's that time of year, time to make a New Year's resolution. And for many, that'll focus in on taking a break from alcohol. That could take the form of committing not to drink in the new year, committing to our 12-week challenge with the Daily Devotional, or committing to dry January. Regardless of what your resolution is regarding alcohol or another toxic substance, Coach Lane and I have come up with strategies that we believe will guarantee your success in getting through situational social events without caving in. Before we begin, I want to remind you about the free resources we have at www.theplanshehasforme.com. You can also get the devotional there and come into our private Facebook group to take the 12-week challenge with us. Let's listen in now. Hey, Lane. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you are here with me talking about this super important subject. And
I'm happy to be here too.
yeah, Lane is a coach with me, and oh my gosh, we go way back. We quit drinking with the same coaching program, and we've been working together ever since and watching each other grow and yeah, so it's going to be a fun conversation. So Lane, New Year's Eve resolutions or New Year's resolutions. I don't know about you, but I've been really successful with New Year's resolutions in general in my life. I actually quit smoking, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 17. I lost track. I don't count. But how about you? Have you been successful with any New Year's resolutions?
That's a really tricky one. I there's kind of the way that I used to approach it, an old chapter, and then there's a new chapter. And I would say with the new perspective, I'm much more successful. The older chapter is kind of like, I'm going to get to the gym, I'm going to lose weight, and it would be kind of that scrambling, I'm going to make this happen. And if only I make this happen, dot, 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 then I'm happy kind of thing. But I have a different way that I've been approaching it. And with that, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, but I'm a lot more
Yeah,
successful.
yeah, and that's kind of what we want to help some people with as we have this January 1st coming up. And, both of us know and probably have participated in the dry January challenges. And both you and I know that that's actually a pretty good challenge. However, what I know about it is you're just cleansing your body. You're not changing your relationship with alcohol. And I believe people that take those challenges, they kind of know, you don't know where they are on the spectrum, but they know alcohol is prevalent enough in their life to where they need to take a break.
Yes.
And that in and of itself is kind of a little alarm button, don't you think?
Yes, that's an interesting way to look at it. And I think that would relate even just without the alcohol, like someone saying, oh, I'm going to work out. It's almost around New Year's, we can pause and say, what are the things that aren't really working for us? So it's a little bit of a wake up call. I agree with you a lot on that.
Yeah, and I love the way you put that too, because we do make resolutions because there's something not working right that we need to change. And I'm not sure a 30-day break works. However, let's just go with it. Let's just say we're dealing with dry January or a resolution to quit drinking, whether it's now or 6 months from now, it doesn't matter really. The things we're going to talk about today are applicable whenever you choose to want to put alcohol to the side. And how do you be successful? So you ready to go through what you and I have probably learned
Yeah.
over our years of coaching?
I actually want to jump in too, right before we start talking about those strategies, because I think also that mindset, that I want to encourage people maybe to even shift away from that, even just the resolution idea, and think of it more as, what is the life upgrade I need? So it's looking at that whole, like zooming back, looking at your life and saying, how do I need to upgrade my health, my wellness? Clearly, putting alcohol aside does a
Oh, and
lot.
that's
Different
gonna be
categories, financial.
that's point
um,
2. That is
yeah.
point 2.
Well,
So
and yeah. So, and anyway, so without much ado, let's go for it.
yeah, let's do it. So number 1, you and I have spent a lot of time coaching on this, 100% versus 99. And I've spent a lot of time talking about this. So I'm going to just bounce this one over to you. And let's talk about the difference between 100% all in versus 99.
Yes, absolutely. It's a huge difference. For me, I felt this difference the most when, believe it or not, when it came to quitting smoking, because I had, as you and I both know, I had a head injury, and it resulted in a near fatal experience, where I had to have emergency brain surgery. So I remember when I kept obsessing about while I was in the hospital was whether, when I could have a cigarette. I wanted to smoke. And I sat there, after I had gotten discharged from the hospital, and I had that cigarette in my hand, and I knew I was so frustrated because I really knew I couldn't have that cigarette. As much, I did a little research. It's not good for any type of post-surgery, you name it. There were complications. And so, as difficult as it was, I had to take that cigarette, cut it in half, break it in half, put it away. And I actually burst into tears because I knew I couldn't have that, or else I literally was opening myself up to something horrible potentially. But I had tried to quit smoking 15, 20 years. It was impossible because I was always 99.9% ready to quit. But even just that tiny 1% or 0.01%, that allowed me to play the head games. Well, maybe if I just have some this weekend, maybe if I just did this, or, you start playing all these games, and the temptation is wreaking havoc on your mindset. When I knew that I was done with smoking, that it was not possible for me to have that, I quit like that. It was unbelievable. Instantaneous. I hardly even felt physical.
Wow, and that's good. That's a lifetime commitment, but we're talking about an event, right?
Yeah.
And I have noticed over the years, whether it was smoking or drinking, because I was a very heavy cigarette smoker too. And and I know people listening have probably tried a lot of times as well. And there are times that somehow are just easy. Why are they easy? And then there's times that are difficult. Why are they difficult? And I think you and I have figured it out. It is this 100%. When you have your commitment, and let's just go towards, we're talking about an event, right? How to do dry January, or and go into social situations and not give in. And that 100% all in makes a super big difference to it being easy or hard. Because if you can picture yourself like, I'm just going to the event and I'm not going to drink, versus maybe it's going to be hard. What if I see wine? Maybe just one. Nobody will know. It won't, you know what I mean? As I even share this with you, it's agonizing to think of. And can you think of those times where sometimes you quit and it was easy, and sometimes you quit and it wasn't? Do you remember that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, relating to that instance then, but with the alcohol, I had decided to put it aside, and it was agonizing when I allowed all those little head games in.
Mhm.
Whereas when I had almost a response scripted where I had gone over, well, what's going to happen when someone offers me, or my awesome closest friend at this work party who's so much fun, we used to drink, what about when they encourage me and they want me to, is that going to, well, I would think those things through, right? And say, no matter what happens at this event, the answer is no. I would have things with
I know a lot of the yeah, I know a lot of the coaching clients that we've coached go, not an option, not
yep,
an option.
absolutely
And
not.
remember, again, we're talking about a dry January commitment, which is 31 days, or maybe we're talking like we do, the 12-week challenge. And what we do is we challenge you to run this race for 12 weeks, not an option. You can choose after this, but what you're doing is saying, what's possible? Who do I look like? What's possible? And that actually, let's just jump over, because number one is just being all in, 100%, not an option. But number two is future focus. And I know this is your gig too, and that's what you referred to. What's possible? What if? Take an inventory. And yeah, do you want to address that one, like that future focus thought when you have a craving in a social situation?
I think that second part is taking responsibility. You are accepting that you are in this 100%. So you are taking the responsibility to think things through that could be triggering. When if you have a goal where you want to put alcohol aside, but you've been having this habit for a while, there's a lot of triggers. You just have these natural neural receptors that are going to cause a craving because it's something you used to do. You're reconditioning your mind. So you really want to think things through. And just because you might have a craving or a response, that just doesn't automatically mean, oh, it's over, I'm going to throw in the towel. You just have to know how to respond differently to that. So thinking things through, what would be the likely scenario that could make you want to backtrack, right? But if you made this commitment, you made it for a reason. You want to follow through, even just for being willing to honor the promise you made to yourself and your word to yourself. Also, you never get a chance to see what's at the end of that promise if you don't get there. Those repeated day ones or day zeros, they're never getting you anywhere. You want to have that mindset of 100% all in, because you want to see, well, what would potentially happen if I get to that goal? What could be on that other side? And so,
Well, yeah.
yeah,
And so what we like to talk about is in future focus, like, what does it look like if I'm more productive?
right.
What does it look like if I'm more connected to the people I love? What does it look like if my physical health improves? Maybe we lose weight or our blood pressure decreases. Our skin. Oh my gosh, how many times have we seen people's complexions completely change, right? That's what we mean in future focus. There's a reason you quit. There's a reason you want to see something different. And so when there's a craving, what am I looking for? If I, like you said, if I have that, I just take a big X across the future focus. So that's what I like to think is like, what am I doing this for?
It's the
And
big
I
why.
and
You
I
know,
love your comment about integrity, right? When we can do this and follow through, we have a better sense of confidence that we can do other things, you know? And so, yeah, I know you're gonna love this one too, because you're the master of the mocktail. But number three is plan ahead, right? And it's plan ahead when Aunt Mabel pours your glass of wine or your brother, punches you in the shoulder and says, "Come on, drink, drink with me." Plan ahead. And to me, that means know what you're going to drink, right? Know what's going to be there. And if it's not there, bring your own. I mean, if you're going to a bar or a place that serves alcohol, they have non-alcoholic choices, right? That makes it easy. You can ask the bartender for a mocktail or have soda water, cranberry, and lime. But if you're going to mom's house and you know the liquor's going to abound, what kind of things do you do or bring?
Well, just to backtrack too, I think it's really important to assume all responsibility for this goal. So never make the assumption that someone at this event is going to take care of you. Definitely bring your own mocktails. It could be something like seltzer in a cooler, and we'll talk a little bit more about things that I love to bring. But also, you should definitely assume that people are going to try to give you drinks. And how do you respond to that? Assume it, because they have been programmed to the old you. So they're responding of that former version. So that you're going to want to know how to respond to that in your mind. Maybe rehearse it a few times. Also, some people may be positive, some people won't care, some people may be annoying. You should assume it's going to be all kinds of
Yeah.
situations. Assume it could be awkward potentially, and that is okay, because if you're prepared, if you're over prepared, it's going to be a breeze. It will be easy. So also, yeah, bringing your own stuff. Also, making a phone call. I think preparing in this way is huge. Letting your community, if you have a supportive community that are alcohol free, that could be something, our website, the Facebook, right?
Well,
So
that's our next thing, accountability and elevator speech. So do you
yeah,
want to move on to that, or do you want to
I
talk
think
about you
that they're all, yes, all of these are so organically intertwined, and
They
together
are.
they make that net. So well, let me just say, bringing your own drinks can be so much fun. I wanted to talk about that really quick, because it's the opportunity to show people that it's still fun. There's other things out there than alcohol. um, you can bring, I have a giant glass, beautiful container that I'll make this really strong ruby red hibiscus and rosehip tea. And you can bring all kinds of different variations that are fun. So you can actually open up the world for other people that of what's out there. Um, and you'll be the one up early the next day, happy, probably going for a power walk.
Well, and one thing I've found, and I'm pretty sure that you've experienced this as well. A lot of times people look at you when you show up to an event like that and you go, "No, thank you." They're like, "Gosh, wish I could do that." And you become an inspiration for others. And I think that's a pivotal moment in a lot of people's walks, especially if you're going 12 weeks, where they go, people are getting used to me showing up, not drinking. And they just say to me, "I wish I could do that." Or there's plenty of people out there that don't even like to drink that will succumb to peer pressure of drinking just because others are. And so you're giving them permission to not have something. I know that's happened to me when I've gone to social situations. And if I'm turned to like, "What would you like to drink?" I'm like, "Oh, soda, cranberry and lime." And then two people later, they're like, "I'll have what she's having." And I just feel so good, you know.
I
And
think
people
you
might not know what I do or what I coach. It's just that it's acceptable to not have to order an alcoholic beverage.
It's interesting how you suddenly see with different glasses almost when you've put alcohol aside. You do notice that there's actually a lot more people who don't drink that you may not you may not have noticed because you were so focused on your drinking. I mean,
Oh,
the
I'm
events were
embarrassed.
yeah.
I'm embarrassed to even say that it was one of my first revelations when I started to go out drinking. I became a lot more aware of how much people were drinking, how slowly they were going through the wine. And I was horrified when I understood that I was one of the few people that was drinking, the most. And that a lot of people were just sipping on one glass of wine. And I was like, oh, this is embarrassing, and
Also, though, but I have noticed just how much people drink as well, and just my
it can
eyes
go
watch
both ways.
yeah, as that, like, societally, culturally, it's such a huge part of our culture, but it also doesn't have to be, and I love entering that other reality and suddenly realizing that world, which has made me much happier. I really enjoy that world so much more, and
Yeah, one of my newer things that I tell people to do if they're challenging themselves to not drink and going into a social situation where it's going to be there, I challenge them with being aware of how much more satisfying conversation is, or how many people aren't drinking, or how many people are drinking heavily and what's happening to them as they're doing that. They're getting
yeah.
louder, they're invading your personal space, they're touching you more. There's this whole series of events that happens.
Over
Stumbling, huh?
I was at a recent event and there was some oversharing and it was just a little embarrassing. It's just and it's alcohol. So I agree 100%. Just having that new awareness and so you were asking about the elevator speech. With that, as you're entering into those situations, you're probably going to have those people who are used to you from, the ghosts of Christmas past, right? Of maybe you were that person. So how do you respond? And I think it's just so interesting. Maybe when I first did my first alcohol free January, right? And sometimes would say, "Oh, I'm on a cleanse or this," and it was just I found my way through that. But now if I go to an event and someone's asking me, I'm like, because I don't drink alcohol, there's a completely different mindset that I have that my elevator speech is, well, I'm not drinking. And I have this and it's obvious, like it just radiates from me that I really love this decision. And that's where you were bringing up, other people modeling or maybe, oh, what she's having. It
You're
starts to
what?
happen.
I didn't hear that.
I'll have what she's having,
Right.
your
Yeah.
your creamery line. So I love that experience as that kind of blossoms.
Well, let's shift to that elevator speech because especially I want to I've done this podcast on somebody else's channel, and one of the things that I've noticed over the years is it can be a lot harder. Men can have a lot more peer pressure than women can without, when you just say no, thank you. And for some reason, they're pulling your man card or something, if you don't have a beer. And I think it's important to develop an elevator speech, and that's like, how are you going to respond and with what tonality? And Lane, I know you know this, but on the website www.theplansihasforme.com, you can download under the free resources tab 20 flashcards to give you some ideas of things that you can say with confidence. And it could be just, I have a honeydew list tomorrow and I need to make sure I'm, a-okay for it, or I'm in tip-top shape, or I'm training, or I'm going for a run in the morning. And I just had, those are legitimate reasons not to drink.
Yeah.
I'm training for a marathon. I'm giving it a break. I'm challenging myself. There's just lots and lots of different things that we're helping you with, because I think when you go, I had to give it up, or I don't know, Lane, what would you say if you were in AA? I think you understand the AA narrative more.
Let's see, maybe, oh, I can't have any, you make it sound like a form of deprivation, but it is a mindset. So the when you can get to a mode where it's unapologetic, where it's pride, I'm proud I've made this choice. I'm choosing health for me. So there's a different mindset. So shifting, and that's why rehearsing that elevator speech just in your mind, just thinking about it a little bit so that it's not apologetic. And also you don't owe anybody any explanation for any choice. Why do people ask you why you're not drinking? That's actually a really strange question in some ways, if you think about it. Why are we so attached to this activity?
Well, and somebody, and maybe it was even you, Lane, that somebody said to me, "Well, I'm vegan. I don't eat meat." Well, why? Well, maybe people do ask why about that, but people don't ask why you order something that doesn't have meat in it. You
Yeah,
just, I'd like
yeah,
the bean burrito. Why? You know?
exactly. Yeah, people are very funny. This is a touchy subject, but so you don't have to engage in that mindset. You can completely shift out of it. And why? Because if you feel like you do need to explain for some reason, it's January and I'm all about my health right now. And, you can come up with all these positive reasons of why you're making this decision. And again, you only have to tell people as much as you want to. But really own it in a positive way because what you're doing is awesome. And if you can try to shift out of that, oh, no, not for me tonight. I'm not able to have, don't turn it into a deprivation. Because that will also stay with you and maybe you won't see the event in the same manner. This is a real opportunity to think about your whys, you know, better relationships in your life, more quality moments so just thinking about all those awesome things that you get to have at that event. So,
Yeah, and what I think the best response is because life is so much better without it.
yeah.
I love sleeping well. I love waking up and saying, "What's next, God?" I love my life and I don't want to trade it in for what it used to look like. And like you said, being proud of your decision and encouraging others to give it a try and take that challenge. So, all right. So far we've gone 100% in, future focus, um, planning ahead on what to drink, developing your elevator speech. And I think the last thing, well, I'm going to talk about the LIE acronym too, but the last thing I want to talk about is accountability. Whew. The and you're right. These things all work together, and I am certain that if you do all the five things that we're just talking about here, you're you're guaranteed to make it through to the other side.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
I
Um,
agree with that. I do. I think if you really truly follow this, it is truly they come together and it's like that net.
yeah. And so the last piece is accountability, because I think a lot of people just stay in their head with it. I'm
Uh
I'm not
definitely
gonna I'm not gonna drink tonight. And then they don't tell anybody else that they're not gonna drink.
yeah. The I think every single one of these is so hugely I'm looking down because I have it written here. But I they're all so hugely important. I think all of them should happen. I wonder if accountability could be so huge, maybe the most important. And the reason I will share is when we stay in our heads, just like you said, it's that quote from Einstein that, the same brain can't solve the problem that it's trying to, the definition of insanity is, repeating the
Doing the
same.
same thing over
Right.
and over again, yeah, and expecting a different
We're
result.
sometimes in our head. We're sometimes, remember, we're the ones who have cravings. We might talk ourselves out, but if you create accountability, it's no longer about yourself. You actually have to be accountable to others. And one of the best things, and that's why programs working together, if you're going to do like a dry January, doing it with a group of people, because you're not just going to let yourself down. Who cares? You've already left yourself down all the time, right? But suddenly now you're letting the group down, those people that you've created a connection with. Um, Also, if you let family members know who care about you and you have a, that type of relationship, they can be on your team. But definitely, if you're going to an event and you're part of a community, let that community know before you go that you're going, and let them know you're going to check in with them after. I tell you right now, it is one of the best things you can do for yourself, because sometimes that kooky thinking comes in, and when you have that support, they're holding you so that you can make the right decision for your goal.
Yeah,
That
and
makes
it
sense.
could be, depending who you trust, it could be the host or
Right.
hostess.
Exactly.
It
It
could
could
be
be
the
friends with
person,
at the event.
it could be the person you're going with. Um, it could be a friend that's not going, or it could be the accountability group. There is always somebody that you can tell before the event, like, I'm going to this event and I'm not going to drink. I'm committed to not drinking. And you're probably right, Lane. I think that accountability is probably, maybe it should have come first. But they all work so together. It's hard to put. I think, as I've watched and listened to, you know, people come back from events and say, I drank. Well, what happened? And they all fall into this category, you know?
Yeah. Um, Keeping it low profile, not, and so thinking about different strategies, everything that you said makes sense. Having, connections. Obviously, you're going to an event. If it's a work party, someone that you feel close to, maybe finding out who else doesn't have alcohol at those events. If you're friends with them, saying, "Hey, I'm doing this dry event. How do you get through?" Like, it's also a way you can connect more. Or you have family members at these events. Again, I love even just the simplicity of having a Facebook community. It totally has worked for people, believe it or not. You know, Having phone calls. I'm gonna call like my best friend. I'm gonna call you when I get out, just to touch base about it. So you can create any kind of layer of accountability um, through friendship, family members, supportive hosts at events, work accountability buddies, and organizations. If you're joining a group to do something, you do not. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be really simple, but it's just that you have people on your team who want you to succeed, and you can use them as check-ins, especially after an event, letting them know before and after, so that
Mhm.
it's not just about you. You won't just be letting yourself down. You've set up systems.
Yep. I love it. I love it. And I think statistically, you're 5 times more likely to be successful at something when you created an accountability system. And I
Definitely.
like something that you said kind of in the middle of our discussion, and that's one of our core concepts. And it's really important to the tonality, to the 100% all in. It all works together. I get to. Look, you don't have to do anything in life, right? I know some things are scary, but in this case, you're putting aside alcohol and it can be scary, but your mind is lying to you. It absolutely is lying to you. When you use an addictive substance, your body develops a tolerance to it. And that tolerance means your body's fight or flight system is kind of freaking out, and it goes into panic mode. Oh my gosh, you're not at this level. I need you, I need you, I need you. But it's a lie, because you don't need it ultimately. You just need to give your body a break to where it gets used to operating the way God designed it, which is having joy.
Yep.
Uh, Addicted substances steal your joy, because it just, I heard an explanation. It's like your dopamine levels should be running at maybe 10 or 20% normally if you're excited about something. But if you use an addictive substance, it's running at 100 miles an hour, right? And that's why initially you're yippee, but your body's amazing. It just adapts, and then it'll adapt and think, well, 100 miles an hour is normal. So when you don't have the substance lifted up to 100, it goes into panic mode.
Yeah.
But somehow this mindset thing can take control of panic mode, because you're using some awareness. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. It's so easy for me to walk into social situations now with
So
alcohol.
don't even think about it.
Yeah.
It's the
And
new normal.
it's not a struggle. And so I just want to share with people here that you've got two people. We're both looking at 4 years in 2024. Me in March, you in June. July or June? July.
May.
May. Oh, you're right behind me. And March and May. And that's right. You were Memorial Day.
Yes, I was.
Yeah. And we're here to tell you it's much better. It's much better on this side. And
I mean,
go ahead.
well, I just, when you're doing an event, let's say the dry January, we have a pattern that's been created, and whenever you change that, the brain really reacts. Creates some discomfort and whatnot. But really, they just gonna practice these systems, get yourself to stay the course, so that you can give your chance to see it. It just gets easier and easier and easier. And then, as you're saying, I walk into these events, I don't even remember that I used to be preoccupied with the alcohol part. It's complete. It's so.
I'm not
different.
only not even remember, I'm so happy that I can go to an
Yeah.
event, drive home, and not have to worry
Have
about
more
anything.
fun. We
Yeah.
more successful than ever in my life. So many more events, much more authentic friendships. Just way it's we don't have enough time to list all the positive gains. But probably the inner stability of your emotions and the true authentic happiness. It's more steady, healthier. I mean, we could just go on, but I think that what you're pointing out is so true. It's just so good for people to know. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. This is your brain. It has kind of, it's gotten out of whack. It is suddenly now associated with this habit with your basic needs like food, shelter, water. It's made it as important, and it triggers those. It's like a panic, but it goes away. It goes away. So
Yeah, thank you. And for everybody listening, Lane and I have both, we jointly write our articles, and I just have a new website with articles up. And I think one of the ones that are commonly displayed is how to handle alcohol during the holidays and during holiday events. And all these items are covered. So many other subject matters are covered. We're kind of running out of time. I had wanted to share the LIE acronym, but that's also a free resource on the website under the free resources tab. But it's also a system that we can use that says, look, intercept and explore is to look at the story you're telling yourself and identify its false nature. Intercept that thought with a vision of your future self and explore alternative activities until the craving goes away. But we have a whole free resource that explains to you. So yeah, get onto
Sounds
the
like a
website.
That's
Huh?
like a great next blog. I already see the title of That'd be perfect.
Yeah, but we have developed just over the years a lot of free resources to help you as you navigate whether or not it's a New Year's resolution, a 12-week challenge with us and our programs, or dry January, and to whatever you are committing to. Lane and I are here to wish you the best of luck and use the tools that we've talked about. So thank you for doing this with me, Lane. Lane and I are definitely of same mind and love it. Love it.
Thanks for inviting me.
Okay. Until next time, everyone.